Justice for all.
Evening. Call to order the meeting of Sayreville Planning Board of May 7th, 2025. Beth, has this meeting been advised according with the Open Meeting Public Act?
Yes, Chairman, it has.
Right. Ask for a roll call.
Mr. Candell?
Here.
Ms. Larman? Mr. Mueller?
Here.
Mr. Shaw? Ms. Sataka? Mr. Velosin? Mr. Williams? Councilman Zabrowski?
Here.
Chairman Ty?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Memorialization of resolution application Thomas J. Fallon, minor subdivision of 16 Charlotte Street, Sayreville, New Jersey, 08872, block 125, lot 6, 6.10, 7, 7.10, 8, and 9. What's your pleasure?
Can we get a motion?
I'm waiting for one.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion made and seconded. Anybody hearing none? All in favor, say aye.
We'll do a roll call.
Okay.
Mr. Candell?
Yes.
Ms. Larman? Mr. Mueller?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw? Ms. Sataka? Mr. Velosin? Mr. Williams? Councilman Zabrowski?
Yes.
Chairman Ty?
Yes.
Thank you.
Accepted for the minutes of April 2nd, 2025 and April 16th, 2025. I need a motion to accept them.
Second.
Having a motion in second, anybody opposed?
All in favor? Opposed?
Site plan subdivision hearing. Mr. Sachs, it's up to you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of the planning board, professionals. Lawrence Sachs on behalf of the applicant. We were last here middle of April, and at that time, we presented some additional traffic testimony, some additional engineering testimony. I think at the conclusion of that hearing, Mr. Chairman, you asked me if the applicant was resting, and I said I was going to reserve that decision until this evening. And after reviewing all of the transcripts in this matter, we do not believe we have any additional testimony that we need to proceed forward at this point. So the applicant does rest. I know that the chairman has indicated that you're going to reserve the public for this evening, and we certainly have no objection to that.
Okay. Communication agenda. And all right. We're going to open up to the public. Tonight, you can speak about anything that's on your mind. Go ahead.
So this evening is going to be the public hearing portion of the site plan application for 212 to 216 Erston Road, Sayreville. Now, during a public comment portion of the hearing, the public has the opportunity to come up and speak on matters that relate to the application, that provide testimony with respect to various aspects of the application, and objectors also have the opportunity to put their objections and the evidence or testimony into the record. It's important to note that public comment on an application is limited to that application. It's limited to the facts, it's limited to the operation of the site, the traffic of the site, the design of the site, and the intensity of use of the site. Individuals' thoughts, both positive and negative, on a house of worship and location is not really relevant, as this is an approved use within this zone. But what is important and what should be part of the record are any thoughts or comments on the objective aspects of this application. Thank you.
All right. I'll take a motion to open up to the public. Motion. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Anybody can come up, state your name. Just please be cognizant of what people are saying. We're going to try not to be redundant. Try to keep your time under 5 minutes. And if you were called upon, we're not going to call upon you again until at the end. Ma'am, your name? Is that mic working?
Mary Ellen McMahon, 210 Erneston Road. I want to know if there's going to be a fence put around the property when they start building?
Mr. Sachs, can you answer that?
Well, it is public comment, but I think I can answer that. If there's any construction fencing, if that's what you're alluding to, I think that's required by your construction department. So whatever the construction department requires, if this application is acted favorably, we'll comply with. I don't believe there's a fence on the proposed site plan. I believe there's landscaping, extensive landscaping that's being provided.
Also, when they bring these big tractors and your building materials and stuff, will Erneston Road have to be closed at any point?
Again, that would be subject to whatever construction officials require.
Okay, you were no help.
Anybody else like to speak? Good evening.
James Comasberger, 12 Center Ave, Parlin. I got a couple questions on the underground garage and how deep it will be. And how far you're going to dig. Because as we know in this town, DuPont had a chemical spill. And it goes all the way up to Ernston Road and goes all the way to 9. Can you guarantee that none of this chemical spill that's in this town will be affected? There is children in that whole neighboring area, and that's a big concern.
I don't know.
The board can note that any issue involving contaminated soil and or contaminated water is governed, frankly, is outside of the scope of this board and is governed by the state.
Should be brought up. I mean, you are the planning board. You are here for our safety.
This planning board, nor any planning board, does not have the authority over the regulation and the requirements for the evaluation of environmental conditions. There are very strict state
What soil
regulations.
testing is done on this property?
Excuse me, sir. There are very strict state regulations that govern that, and that is outside of the scope of this board's authority.
Okay,
As far as I know, when you start digging like that, you have to go through the watershed and they get involved.
do we have the
And
report?
they take the samples.
Did you get the report?
Did I get the report? No, because they haven't dug yet.
So we're gonna okay something without that report?
Actually, we have provided, I believe, soil sampling as part of our submission.
And how far down was the soil samples done?
I don't know. I can't comment on that. I mean,
Okay, the next
obviously-
question is, as we know, we've found live ammunition throughout that whole area. Is the Corps of Army Engineers going to be involved in any way to secure if an ammunition is found? Because they were found on the property adjacent to it up at Samsel School. It's been found in Eisenhower School. And I have knowledge that they're around checking Eisenhower School for live ammunition from the explosion way back. Are we going to be proven that we're not going to have, that they're going to do the right thing if something is found?
And sir, that is a construction, that is a development and construction issue. It is outside of the scope of this board. This board is a planning board. Its authority is limited to the review of the plans, the review of the relief sought. The rules governing the safe movement of ammunition is both a state and federal issue, and is also gets to construction. This board deals with the request to build and the relief for any variances or design waivers with respect to the town's ordinances.
Okay. So nothing's going to be done about the soil testing or any of this?
Well, that's not true. No, it's a self-serving statement, sir. This board does not govern that. The authority for environmental matters in the state of New Jersey is governed by the state DEP, Department of Environmental Protection. and they published very lengthy and thorough regulations on that issue, which developers, both commercial and residential, have to comply with. This board does not have the authority pursuant to the municipal land use law to governing that issue.
Okay, God forbid someone hits this chemical spill. What's the next step? You said I can ask any question.
Yeah,
These
I
are
mean,
questions I have.
Okay, well, I mean, I would, if you have questions about you can reach out to your construction code official, you can reach out to the building department or the State Department of Environmental Protection, but that's not outside the scope of this board's purview and its authority.
Okay.
Anybody else like to speak?
Hi, my name is Kathy Scribona. I live in Parlin. The answers that you just gave this gentleman, is there any way that you could give me the numbers for me to contact, being none of you are going to take any responsibility to anything other than, I don't know what even you have this meeting for, if you can't answer a question. So if anything, when it comes to the spill or ammunition, anything dangerous, you just refer it back to the government. So the state. So who do we call? Murphy? He's going to approve this? Who has the right to approve this before any of this gets done? Who has the right to approve it before things are tested, water testing, all of it? Who approves it? You guys?
The Department of Environmental Protection.
Here, I mean, in the town or in the state?
Throughout the entire state,
County and state.
county, state, municipal.
So the state will let you guys know if this is feasible to do?
They'll let the property owner know.
And will they do the testing before the approval? I thought it was all approved already.
Depends on the state regulations.
And do you know the state regulations?
I do not know them by memory.
You don't know them. Is there anything you guys do know?
I know for a fact that when I sat on the board over at the county college, we approved every building over there with the stipulation that there might be ammunition.
Mhm.
We did find 2 shells. They shut the job down. The Army Corps of Engineer came down, took the 2 shells down to Fort Dix, and they were duds. But that's the procedure. Did it stop the construction of the job? Yeah, for about 2.5 months. If the same thing happened with the EPA, if the EPA comes in, the same thing will happen. If they find that there's anything the matter with it, the EPA will come in and come up with a guideline of what has to be done to remediate that, just like they had to remediate down where they're building Bass Pro.
But will they come in before it's too dangerous or after they're digging and a chemical spill starts? When do they come in? When it is already dangerous? Being that they know there's been a spill and there is chemicals underground, how far are they going? 85 feet? Who knows how long, deep are they going? How deep are they going? They gotta be going very deep. Never mind the people's
Jen, how far down
foundations
they going?
that live there. How deep are they going? So they hit something, the spill comes up, the poison comes up, then the Army Corps of Engineers come in, then the environmentalists come in, after kids are sick, after seniors are sick. Are you kidding me? How did this even get this far? How did it get this far?
Well, because when people own property in the state of New Jersey, ma'am, they have the absolute right to come before a board, a land use board, and to seek an application to do construction. And many different government entities have different responsibilities throughout the land use development and application process and then construction process. This board doesn't inspect property. This board doesn't determine whether or not you're, excuse me, ma'am, excuse me. This board doesn't determine whether or not the electric is being billed correctly. This board doesn't determine whether or not OSHA is being complied with when they're digging trenches. This board's responsibility is to receive an application to determine whether or not that application satisfies the ordinances for the borough. If there's variants that are needed, it's this board's obligation to hear the evidence and to weigh whether or not those variances are granted. Now, subsequent to any land use board making a decision, sometimes parallel with it, but oftentimes subsequent, there's outside agency approvals that are needed. Those outside agency approvals are the Department of Environmental Protection, very often for things such as stormwater runoff, sometimes contamination, wetlands. The county's involved. There's sometimes organizations involved, Department of Transportation could be involved based on where the roads are. And so every entity has its own responsibility. An applicant has the right to come before a board in this borough and submit an application for construction. Now, they may also need other approvals. They also need other permits. They also may need to satisfy other conditions. But this board can't say, well, have you done that yet? Because what the law in New Jersey tells us is that applications that require a land use approval, that require DEP approval, that require county approval, that require Department of Transportation approval, some applications require Turnpike Authority approval, depending how close they are to either the Parkway or the
How
Turnpike.
many have been approved already?
And excuse me, ma'am. And then whether or not the planning board or a zoning board in a municipality approves it, if the entity doesn't obtain the outside agency approvals, then they're not able to move forward with that project.
Okay, so how far is it?
How far is what, ma'am?
How many people have approved this already? What agencies approved it?
We're not aware of that. And frankly, this board makes its decision outside of the context and of what other agencies are doing, because they focus on their job. And the DEP may have approvals, the county likely has approvals, DOT, there's many agencies that may have to review this.
And so what is your job actually then? What is your job?
Well, as I said, ma'am,
If
any
it
planning
has to
board,
go to all these other entities.
any planning board in the state of New Jersey, their obligation is to receive an application
Okay, so is there any approvals on this building?
that have been granted by this board yet?
Yeah.
No, none, no.
Nothing. So it's like nothing. They still have to go through everything. Because I have heard so many different stories that it's been approved and this is just for show. Is it?
No.
Is it just for show?
No.
No?
I don't know if the
Anybody
applicants.
here buy a new house, build a new house, go on vacation, get a new boat? Anybody?
Excuse me, ma'am, that comment is not appropriate.
Well, this isn't appropriate.
What is not? This
This
is
isn't
the way the
appropriate.
laws of the state of New Jersey say that
As
land
long-
use.
If you're
ma'am,
telling me
ma'am.
there's absolutely no approvals on this yet, I will be very comfortable and apologize to you. Is there any approvals that this can go forward now, so far? Is there any
This
way
board
anybody's
has,
going to
this
start
board,
digging
ma'am,
now?
this board has not granted an approval yet. They haven't even had a vote yet. Now, has the applicant obtained county approval? I don't know. You can ask them. Have they obtained DEP approval? I don't know. Maybe they have. Again, that's outside agency approval.
And how do we find out that then? How do we find that out?
You could ask the applicant. You could ask the DEP, the Department of Transportation.
And who is the applicant? Who do I ask?
Oh, they're sitting right there, ma'am.
Is it what's approved from the county? County approve it?
First of all, we have submitted in connection with this application, extensive soil testing, soil borings, which have been reviewed by.
Surface soil?
Can I, ma'am, if you'd like an
Go ahead.
answer, I'll be glad to give you an answer.
ahead.
Thank you. We have submitted soil testing. We have submitted soil borings. We have submitted an environmental impact statement. We have received comments from CME, which are very specific and very technical as to what has to occur if in fact this application is approved. There is no evidence of any contamination of any nature whatsoever. There's no evidence of any ammunition on site. And that's all contained in the reports that have been submitted.
How far down did you go?
I'm not the engineer, but that's all public record. It's all part of the plans. It's been testified to at prior hearings.
Does anybody here know how far down legally it has to go before they're approved?
No.
No, but they can say 20 feet and get approved and that's it. And if they go 40, it's no good. The engineer will know how far they have to go. Will they dig Will they have that information? If they go 50 feet, has 50 feet been tested? Or is it just the soil on the grounds that we walk on?
Mr. Chairman, there's a comment on our report that I think maybe will address the person's concerns. One of the conditions in our report says a soils report which demonstrates the ability of the site soils to support the proposed structure should be provided. The manner in which potential groundwater issues will be addressed, as well as the need for special foundation support members, should also be further reviewed. As was discussed with the board, this report should also address the potential impacts of vibrations during construction on the adjacent properties. So if this
Okay, so that's good for foundations.
if this application is approved, this would be a condition of the approval. So prior to starting any construction, this report would have to be prepared by a licensed professional engineer who would examine the loads associated with the building, determine what type of soil borings are necessary, how deep they'll have to go, and he'll have to issue a report saying that the soils can support the building.
But I don't care about the support of the building. Does the engineer know that there was a spill there in the 80s?
Ma'am, where did you get the information that there's a spill there? The spills.
Well, I lived here for the
spill-
past-
The spills that I see on the maps are all under Hercules property over on the other side of Cheesequake Road.
No, it went down to Ernston Road. I've been living
I've
here.
never
I've
seen
lived
that.
here for 40 years. It was down Ernston Road. So, I mean, I just don't understand. I can understand that, and that's great for foundations because with them digging all that way to put in a parking garage, which is absurd in its own liking, those foundations are gonna crack. There's no doubt. I mean, seriously, they have to go very, very deep to get all the parking that they want.
For your information, ma'am, the bottom floor of the parking garage is approximately 5 feet below the grade of Ernston Road.
So where's the rest of the parking? Above ground?
Building is being elevated. Based on the plans, the bottom floor of the parking garage is approximately elevation 86.
All right, so that could have answered my first question I asked you then. How far down are they going?
5 feet.
The whole building, that's 5 feet. That's as
5
far
feet,
as they're
everything goes
digging.
up.
So why didn't you just answer me that from the get-go when I asked?
Ma'am. Anybody else? Ma'am? You're next.
I might not really have questions, but I have a lot of
Name and
concerns.
number.
Okay. My name is Elizabeth Pinella, and I live at 10 Parkway Place. My family has lived in this house for over 6 decades. We have always tried to be good neighbors to help out the community. Well, I fully respect and support everyone's right to practice their faith freely. I am against any kind of construction of this size, which is over 20 times larger than the surrounding homes. The fact that it would be pushed back from Ernston Road puts it directly behind my house. I do not believe a few trees are going to buffer or hide this giant building. This will greatly affect my quality of life. It will change the landscape of my yard, the surrounding yards, and those surrounding the site. I will have to look at it when I wash my dishes. I will hinder my view of the morning sun. It will limit my bird watching, and it will tower over any activities in the yards around it. I also believe that such a tall structure will create shadows that might change sunny areas to shaded areas and harm plants and gardens in the neighborhood. I feel as if I am being invaded. This has already caused me great anxiety and stress. I have worries about how long the construction is going to take, how this will affect me with noise and dust and rubble. What happens if my property is damaged? Furthermore, I am concerned about the potential increase in traffic congestion and noise pollution that such a large facility could bring, especially with school traffic Already Ernston Road is listed as one of the most overly congested and dangerous roads in the county. Also, if their parking spaces fill up, the thought that worshipers would cross Boardingtown Avenue, park on Johnson's Lane, walk across Boardingtown Avenue to the mosque is not logical. The service may end before they get there. I suspect people would be parking in the side streets of my neighborhood and limiting parking in front of my neighbors' homes and my home. With 4 15 to 20-minute daily services that can start as early as 5 a.m., 2 large services on Friday afternoons, and basketball until 10 p.m., with everything else in between, even if other activities are not at the same time as service, I believe it will be very busy. I do not think anyone would build something this big mainly to use it 1 day a week. Additionally, the introduction of a large-scale house of worship could potentially impact property values in the area. Prospective home buyers may be deterred by the presence of such a structure in close proximity, leading to a decrease in property values for current homeowners. I respectfully request that you reconsider the approval of construction of this building. I do not think that it's beneficial to the neighborhood to have such an unsuitable structure placed on this property.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Name and address.
Nazimul Sahib, Director and Imam of Masjid Sadar and Community Center, 216 Ernston Road. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, God of Abraham, Ishmael, Isaac, Moses, Mary, Jesus, and Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of God be on all of them. On behalf of Masjid Sadar and Community Center, we would like to assure the public that we are committed to being respectful and considerate neighbors. We will work to ensure that our center is a positive addition to the community, promoting harmony and understanding. Our center will serve as a hub for community activities, education, and spiritual growth of our community. We do believe and convince it will enrich the community and provide opportunities for people of all backgrounds to come together. To our dear neighbors, we want to assure you that we value your partnership and look forward to working closely with you. As we move forward, we will strive to be mindful of your concerns and work collaboratively to ensure that our presence is a blessing to our neighborhood. We envision a future where our center and your community can thrive together, and we are excited to build positive relationship with you. A special thank you to the members of our community, old and young, who persevered through this process, trusting us representing them. Again, I would like to say thanks to all our neighbors. May God bless our neighbors, and may God bless our city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're the one.
I appreciate what the imams.
Name and number.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Kimmy Vary. I live in Parkway Homes. My name is Kimmy Vary. I live in Parkway Homes. Okay?
That's perfect.
Okay. I appreciate what the imam said, but I have a problem with him saying that they want to be so neighborly. If that was the case, all of us that live there, well, around the surrounding property, still have wood from the trees that are knocked down up against all our properties that we get wood roaches every summer for years now, since they did this. They haven't addressed it, they haven't cleaned it, and if they were so neighborly, why is it still like that after all this time? We've complained about it. No one has done anything. It sounds great what he says, if that was, the case, but I don't think it is. But I would like to read my statement anyway,
Be
okay?
my guest.
Okay. So I am a resident of Parkway Homes. As you may be aware, our streets are very narrow with no sidewalks, and it's very tight to navigate through the area. We have only two ways out, which is Parkway Place and Center Avenue, onto an already congested Ernston Road, which I'm sure you all know was just identified as one of Middlesex County's top 5 most dangerous roads. I'm concerned about flooding due to all the waivers for setback, and some of the proposed parking spots are in that setback area. So if a waiver is not granted, they will lose even more parking spots. If this 43,000 square foot building does not have enough parking for the droves of people that will attend the many daily services and all the other events in between, then you can bet that we will get overflow in the Parkway Homes. I'm also worried about emergency vehicles being restricted. I live with my senior father who has cardiac issues. I'm concerned about the hours of operation, the noise and the lighting that this magnitude of a project will certainly create, because many of us residents' properties are literally backed up to this site. I am, as many of us here, extremely concerned about our home's foundations, which I believe Lawrence Sachs stated will not be responsible. No one will be responsible for any damages. Didn't he state that at one point? No. That he couldn't be liable, is what he said.
No, ma'am.
Not him
In fact,
personally, but who
in
he's
fact,
representing.
The applicant has stated that one of the conditions that they're willing to agree to, should this, and again, nothing's been approved, should there be an approval, one of the conditions they agreed to is that there would be monitoring and testing during the entire construction process to ensure that construction is being done in a manner that does not result in off-site damage.
Okay, so the properties that are connected literally to the property, our homes, I think should be tested before the project starts, to see if we have damage already before they started to our foundation, or if we don't have, if we do or if we don't. So at the end of the day, if we wind up with damage, then we know where it came from. So what is our recourse in a situation like that?
Situations that have risen in town with compact, the soil and everything. Over on Town Lake, they had that problem. Soon as they found out, they fixed everybody's cracks.
So before any kind of work would possibly happen.
They didn't do any testing before that. They did the impactions, and then they found out that they had a problem. They stopped it again, the building.
So we have to have damage in order for it to be
Mr. Chairman.
rectified.
If I might, at the April 3rd, 2024 meeting, this issue was raised. The applicant agreed to a condition that indicated pre-development inspections of the foundations of the existing houses surrounding the property will be performed. So prior to him starting work, he's going to have an independent engineer inspect the foundations of the properties to determine the conditions prior to him starting, to determine if something happens during construction, there'll be a record to show that it was caused by the construction.
Right, but I remember Lawrence Sachs saying I should have been prepared with that. That, oh, that we really, he can't be liable.
Well-
Yes, he did say something like that. Does somebody know
and-
this?
And I don't mean this with any disrespect to Mr. Sachs, but what Mr.
Better.
Sachs says frankly isn't binding, because should there be an approval, the conditions that are put on the record as part of the approval in the memorializing resolution are what bind the applicant and the property owner. So if a year ago, actually 13 months ago, the applicant indicated that as a condition of approval, they would agree that there would be pre-construction,
I do
pre-site
recall.
work inspecting, and they also agreed that there would be monitoring during it. So that is what controls. Now, I'm not going to dispute them. You may have misheard Mr. Sachs, or maybe Mr. Sachs did say that. But regardless,
The condition.
that's what controls, and that's legally binding.
Well, I just think you people are lucky that you don't have to face the stuff that's going on with us, because it's horrible. People work their whole lives to just buy a little something, and to have it threatened like this. And it has nothing to do with religion. It's just the quality of life. We deserve to have a quality of life. We pay taxes, we work hard, we just want to come home and relax, and it's chaotic. It's chaotic, but I'm not done. Where was I? Yeah, it's horrifying, the thought of worrying about our foundations. It's very unfair. So what else do I have? Yeah, that's pretty much it. So this will just greatly affect our quality of life. We live in a quiet neighborhood and we have the right to privacy, and, you know, I hope we get it. So thank you.
Very much. Mr. Robinson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jim Robinson, Parlin. At one of the first, I think it was the first meeting in the Borough Hall last year, I had mentioned that the borough's original schoolhouse number 1, I think it is at 214 Ernston Road. And I asked the applicant if they would reach out to the Historical Society to inquire as to whether or not the Historical Society had any interest in that building, either preserving it or moving it or doing something. But I asked that there be some kind of communication. We have a very active historical society in this town. They do wonderful things, and I'm wondering what the result of that request was.
I did send a letter to the Historical Society. I did not receive a response. Certainly, we're willing to follow up with them. And certainly, if the board does act favorably as a condition of approval, if the Historical Society has any interest in any of the material, anything in that structure, we'll certainly cooperate with them.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I would respectfully suggest that if this is approved, that the board ask them to reach out to the Historical Society
that a condition.
with respect to that school. How many members of the board are currently eligible to vote on this application?
Everybody.
Does that mean 9?
Yes.
How many are here tonight?
All 9.
9. Okay, all right, thank you. I understand the concerns that neighbors have and everybody has about traffic and things like that, but from a legal perspective, I think this application rises or falls on the issue of parking. I think that's the only variance. So I think it's incumbent upon the applicant to do one of at least 2 things. One is either satisfy the ordinance and demonstrate to you that they have the required number of parking, or convince the board that they have an alternate scenario for parking. And I know there are a few things that were discussed, and this application dates back a while ago. One was the underground parking. I think that may have changed. I had suggested that they look at van pooling, which is what was recommended when the Dwarkadish Temple was approved, and that was something that they had agreed to. that was later thrown out when the application was denied in a 4-4 vote, and Judge Ackerman said that that condition, when an application is denied and it goes to court, the conditions are thrown out. We know, well, you know that, and I know that. And then there was a scenario about I don't remember how many, 22 or 24, 26 spots on Johnson's Lane. I don't know, I saw that there was a letter indicating a lease. I don't know that the board or the Traffic Safety Bureau or anybody else has really looked into that and opine on whether or not that's a safe way of accomplishing parking off-site by having folks cross Bordentown Avenue. So what I'm wondering is, since there have been various scenarios, would it be possible for the applicant or the applicant's professionals to reiterate what is the last version? What are they proposing at this point to meet their obligation under the ordinance for either to have the appropriate amount of parking on site or to convince the board that they have some other safe alternative for accomplishing the parking requirement? Would that be okay to do that?
Well, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Mr. Robinson, you're correct that the only variance being sought is for parking, and that was actually put on the record and clarified at our last meeting. And one of the other points I just want to clarify for yourself and for the members of the public is that additional off-site parking with the former, the no longer being used establishment is not being, and we clarified at the last meeting, is not being presented as to meet or reduce their parking obligation.
Okay.
This application is being presented based on the amount of on-site parking only. And at the last meeting, the applicant clarified that and also clarified that, and well, I'll say clarified, Mr. Sachs can correct me if I'm wrong, that they are seeking a variance with respect to parking.
So parking on Johnson's Lane, that's no longer on the table, is that?
They may use it, but that is not being considered. That's not being considered to satisfy.
I understand, okay.
The parking requirement. The parking requirement must be satisfied by the on-site parking only.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, well, does the applicant have any response to that?
Well, I think council has indicated what our position is, and I agree. The 20, I think it's 22 spaces on Johnson are really just for overflow parking. There was a comment made at the last meeting about making a condition that police monitor that intersection of Bordentown Avenue and Ernston Road. We're willing, I think we stated at that time, we're willing to do that. We make that commitment. There was also a comment about putting a crosswalk across Ernston Road. Subject to the county, we will agree to do that. In terms of, I'm not going to repeat the parking. I don't really know if I need to respond to Mr. Robinson's comments, but there was extensive testimony presented at the last hearing as to the maximum occupancy that will occur at various periods of time. And we did concede that if all of the uses are operating at one time, you would require 250 parking spaces. However, we know that that's not going to occur at this site because we will not have all the uses operating at the same time. The highest use would be the Friday afternoon services, which generated, based on the occupancy limitation on that building, only requires 107 parking spaces, which we satisfy. So although a parking variance is being requested, we believe we've satisfied that. We provided testimony from our traffic engineer and from our planner, and I don't believe there's any further response I need to give on that point.
Okay, thank you. And for the board's edification, Mr. Chairman, I just want to repeat something that I may have said at an earlier meeting. This is a conditionally permitted use because the ordinance says that a house of worship needs to be on 1 acre. The ordinance used to say 3 acres were required. This parcel is somewhere around 2.5 acres. Okay, so a few years ago, the planning board, the mayor and council changed it to 1 acre. I think there was solid reasoning for there to be a 3-acre minimum. There might even be, upon examination, solid reasoning for there to be a 5-acre minimum. I would suggest that, and it's not related to this application because the mayor and the council and the planning board changed the ordinance so that they meet the current ordinance of 1 acre because they are 2.5 acres. But I think after this application is concluded, it would be wise for the planning board and the mayor and council to revisit that and perhaps raise the minimum for any house of worship to back to the 3 acres that it had been before Mayor O'Brien and the council changed it, or perhaps even more than 3 acres. I just think that that's something that in the best interest, would be in the best interest of future applicants and certainly in the best interest of the community. So I would respectfully suggest that you take a look at that and see whether or not there's merit in that suggestion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir? You and the blue are next. So bird watching, huh?
Bassem Mohammed, I live in 4207 Wells Drive, Parlin, New Jersey, London Terrace. I just want to say a little, like, very short story, and then I will say my final word. I have no question for anyone, just a statement regarding to all what's going on. When I moved to America 20 years ago as a young man immigrant to seek a better life comparing to my home country, we always watched America in the movies and how great the country is and how organized and clean, and the government has freedom of speech and all that good positive culture that you wish to live in and immigrate to live in the great America. And that's the dream for many people all over the world. So I started from scratch, from dishwashing, groceries, pizza man, cleaning wash cars, limo driver, taxi driver in New York, and then finished my education, and I am a veterinarian right now. And people respect me as a doctor for their animals. And if you can Google me, my name, thank God I have a good reputation in my field. At one point when I was a limo driver, I think the worst scenario for any taxi or limo driver to get a police ticket for speeding or bad driving mistakes. For any of you, if you got stopped by a police or a trooper on the highway and get tickets.
No.
Give me just one second. It's like a statement. Okay. So if I'm saying something wrong, you can stop me.
You can continue, sir.
So most of us as a regular human being will get very upset if you got a ticket, especially if you're gonna pay a lot of money or you're gonna get points on your license. Then that's gonna affect your insurance and all that, and you get upset. And some people cannot control their upset and maybe curse at the cop or misbehave. But when I got tickets, when I was a limo driver, I usually was happy. And in one case, even after the cop gave me the ticket and walked back to his car, I said thank you from the window. And I think he misheard my thank you. He maybe heard it as something you with a bad way, the F word or something. So he came back to me very angry and said to me, what you said? What you said? Because he thought I cursed him. And I said to him, I said thank you. And he was confused. Like, I just give you a ticket that you may get 6 points and pay $600 in the court. How you say thank you? Why? I said because the way that you giving people ticket, you push the law and everyone will behave and the roads will be safer for everyone, including me and my family. So you're doing your job to keep this country better. So my point here is to thank you as a board member and thank you, all of you, everyone here and the people that came in and attended all the previous meetings and finger point some mistakes in our planning and criticize anything that we may going to do to harm the community. I really appreciate this country. I appreciate the rules. I appreciate the laws. I appreciate the freedom of speech, even for the negative way sometimes will support you to be better and improve. So everything you criticize, guys, to this planning is actually gonna make this plan end in the best way possible if it get approved. And if it got declined at the end, that's okay. It will be the best for the community anyway, because that's at the end of the story. But if it got approved and in the best possible way and shape and under the government requirement, I wish that we try to accept that from both sides and shake hands and wish the best for the next step. Thank you.
Thank you. Long-winded.
Good evening. I'm Joe Carmazin, 322 Ernston Road. I live across the street directly.
Good evening.
So I have more of a statement, excuse me, not too many questions or anything like that. I went over the master
Hold
plan.
on, sir, just so we're clear for everybody, you have you do not have to ask questions. It is a public comment and
That's what I
question
thought.
time. I just wanted to make sure because people seem to be raising that.
I thought is the planner present? I thought the planner was supposed to be present tonight.
The planner is not present. We decided that we reviewed the testimony of the planner from several meetings ago, and there was no need to have him further testify. We were satisfied with the proofs that we submitted.
Okay. All right. Well, I had reviewed the master plan and the Sayreville municipal land use laws. And I just want to go over a few key points that I think really pertain to the structure. So in the master plan, it says goal 1, preserve existing residential neighborhoods. 1B, discourage the removal of existing viable residential uses in favor of non-residential uses. 1C, encourage owner occupancy of residential dwellings. 1E, emphasize the importance of vigorous code enforcement programs in maintenance of viable residential neighborhoods. Goal 2, continue to encourage aesthetic and site improvements in the borough's major commercial industrial areas. To maintain strict limits on location of non-residential development, particularly high-intensity uses to discourage urban commercial intrusion in residential areas. Goal 3, encourage and promote an improvised visual environment and the preservation of natural systems in environmentally sensitive areas. 3A, review development regulations to height, coverage, setback, landscaping, achieve desirable development without artificial or arbitrary restrictions. Goal 4, encourage the maintenance of the existing business community and provide for a desirable new development. 4D, encourage new development which will not place unmanageable demands on the borough infrastructure and/or will assume responsibility in an equitable manner. Economic objectives, balance land uses with capacity of the circulation system to ensure that proposed land uses will not overload the circulation system. protect the visual and aesthetic value of both new and older residential developments by promoting preservation of existing trees and planting new trees, protect character of existing neighborhoods, encouraging designs which are harmonious with those that exist in the immediate vicinity. Now, those are all from the master plan. I cited them. You guys can look them up if you want. I also have a couple from the Sayreville Municipal Land Use Law. 2610.4, referral powers of the planning board. Oh, you know what? I'm going to skip that. The applicant seeking variance waivers. Front yard setback for signage, that's a variance. Off-street loading space, another variance. 200-foot deceleration lane, another variance. Minimum 2% slope on all lawn and landscaped areas, a variance. On-site parking in front area, sidewalks between parking areas and buildings, another variance. And head-to-head parking with planted islands. Not to mention the insufficient spots, which is a huge concern. The visual impact of the project would be significant. Should be consistent with Sayreville Master Plan and Master Plan re-examination. When warranted, an analysis of existing air quality and noise levels and lighting levels. I know we didn't do those tests, but there's going to be a lot of people here. The resident population, working population, and visitor population shall be estimated. Alternatives. Discussion of site design, project location alternatives were considered, shall be provided, shall indicate why alternative was rejected. The parking requirements for non-residential users. This is 26-88.1. And I'm going to skip to number 3 where it goes to places of worship. 1 parking space for each 250 square feet of assemblage area. So that's like in the 200s if you do the math. I also wanted to read 26-88.2, the required off-street loading spaces. They are requesting a waiver for this. Off-street loading for any use shall be 1 for the first 25,000 square feet plus 1 additional space for each additional 15,000 square feet. The signage regulation. No sign shall be located less than 10 feet from a residential zone boundary. Illuminated signs shall not extend above the highest elevation of the front wall of the building or no more above 18 feet above street level. Also another variance. Zoning Schedule 3, bulk regulations, houses of worship. Minimum area requirements, 1 acre, 100 feet lot width, 100 feet lot depth. Minimum setback requirements, 50 feet in the front yard, 50 feet in the rear yard. These are all variances. Minimum bulk requirement height, 40 feet, 3 stories. I think that we were well above that. Minimum lot coverage, 25% of the building and pavement, 45% total should be the lot coverage. 26-96.8 is the lighting design. The style of light and light standard shall be consistent with the architectural type of the principal building, which does not fit the master plan. The maximum height of freestanding light should not exceed the principal building or 25 feet. Light shall be appropriately shielded and directed so lighting shall not spill over into adjacent properties. I'm almost there. 26.98.3, driveways. All entrances and exit driveways shall be located to afford maximum safety to traffic, provide safe and convenient egress and ingress to and from the site to minimize conflict with the flow of traffic. 26-100, regulation of nuisance elements. It just goes over the air pollution, the noise, the vibration, kitchen odors, and glare. So that was from just some things I found in the municipal land use law here for Sayreville that I think that all pertain to this. These are a lot of things we're changing to make this building happen if it gets approved. And I think it's a bit much, honestly. The parking, is a big concern, like a huge concern. That building is giant. And we're naive to think they're not going to fill that building. And if you think 100 spots or 120 spots is going to cut it, it's going to be a big mistake. Emergency vehicles going down Ernstine Road. People the fire trucks constantly rushing to Route 9. I live on Ernstine Road. It sounds like New York City out there. You guys know, Route 9's got accidents. We had an accident on Ernstine Road last Thursday, right at the merge, where 2 lanes go to 1, right there. I saw it, there was 3 cars involved. It's constant. This is a huge concern. I know traffic is not a big talking point, but the parking is really, really gonna add to the traffic. These things are connected. I lived this, they operated for a year. I have photos where there's well over 200 cars there at a time. Playing basketball 11 o'clock at night. They didn't operate in good faith. We gave them a cease and desist letter and they operated for a year after they got it. We fined them and then we dropped the court case. I don't know what's going on with all of that. I know we couldn't talk about it because it was in litigation, but that's over now. And we dropped it. So that's also very concerning that they did whatever they wanted for a year with no recourse, no repercussions. And now we're considering giving them a giant building in our town. And we're being naive to think they're gonna act in good faith after they haven't acted in good faith. There's a lot of variances. Police have been called there before. I've seen them there. The garbage, I feel like they're gonna do weddings and funerals and there's gonna be food in those garbages. This is another thing that we're not talking about here and they could say no, but they're building commercial kitchens and classrooms. This is something we have to seriously think about. Basketball, he said basketball every night till 11 p.m. That's crazy. People are gonna be talking in the parking lot till midnight. Sound carries when there's nothing going on outside. I can hear voices, I can hear your conversation across the street on Ernstine Road at midnight when there's no one driving down the road. The headlights late at night, they light up my house. The entrance and exit is facing my house. Every car pulling out of that place is gonna light up my house. This is seriously a quality of life issue. That's all this really has to do with is honestly, it's the location of it. It just couldn't be worse. I think that if the building gets built, everyone's gonna take every workaround Ernstine Road they possibly can. No one's gonna wanna take that road. So Madison Park, all the back road, it's just people are gonna be trying to go everywhere. Johnson's Lane, how many cars are going down Johnson's Lane? It's just not a great spot. And I really guys want you to put a lot of thought into this and really think about us in the town, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Drew Weingarth, Weingarth. Even though I live in East Brunswick, New Jersey, I grew up in the Madison Park section, and my parents still live in the same house. Thank you, everyone, for your time, service, listening, and considerations. I do not envy this board, since this is not an easy application. I have previously tried to ask questions in an unbiased manner and considered them if I were sitting on your side of the dais. In fact, I believe this is within a year, this is the 7th meeting that we have attended here. I thank everyone from the public who talked whether for or against the mosque. It is not an easy thing to do. And as a result, please do not mistake absenteeism for apathy. One of the most beautiful things about Middlesex County and this area, whether Sayreville, Old Bridge, or East Brunswick, is how diverse it is. It does not matter the religious denomination. Should not matter if it's a mosque, a temple, a synagogue, a church, etc., since the same challenges would still exist for each. Many people feel that, to summarize it in a nutshell, many people feel that a square peg is trying to be placed in a round hole. key word with all of this is impact. And how does this affect everything, basically? Yes, property owners do have rights, but that is why the New Jersey Municipal Land Use Law exists, which protects others as well. I have previously come up here and compared the mosques in East Brunswick, which are both two beautiful structures. There's the one at 341 Dunham's Corner Road and 402 New Brunswick Avenue. But in comparing it with this site, I strongly feel we're comparing apples and oranges. With the one at 341 Dunham's Corner Road, the average person, as big as it is, which is pretty comparable to this facility, the average person wouldn't even know it's there as they're driving by. Compared to the one at 402 New Brunswick Avenue, it's very similar to this situation in its how congested it is. But they did not build a 3-story structure at the 402 New Brunswick Avenue site. At 341 Dunham's Corner Road, it is on 9 acres, not 2.5. And ironically, the mosque at 341 Dunham's Corner Road in East Brunswick just came before the East Brunswick Zoning Board to ask for an application and permission to build a cemetery. Makes total sense because they have 9 acres of property. Other major topic is traffic. Unfortunately, we learned at the last meeting, which of course is the main concern, and it is beyond unfortunate that the planning board cannot deny the application based on adding more vehicles. Sorry. Per the traffic, I am not sure if the planning board knows this, but many of us attended on April 26th. Middlesex County had a safety traffic audit presentation at the Sayreville Library. Again, we have noted that Ernston Road has been tagged as one of the most 5 dangerous roads in Middlesex County. And they are doing a safety audit for 5 of those roads, and Ernston Road being one of them. So they had, I'll call it a presentation at the Sayreville Library on Saturday, April 26th, which was between the last application and this one. Many of us were there and we were asked or pointed our concerns. It might have just been that timing is a coincidence. Not sure if this would have happened regardless of this application, but I'm glad it happened. And many of us pointed out our concerns for this. I'm glad it was noted that per the Middlesex County Planning Board, that you guys, per their conditions, that a crosswalk in front of the mosque was part of the condition, if I understand it correctly. However, I'm hoping that other crosswalks along that are also not ignored. There's the Villanova area and the one at Rutgers, never mind the 2 streets that are off of the Parkway development on the Sayreville side. Per the concerns, I realized that a year was a long time ago. And actually, the engineer did do a great presentation on April 3rd at the very first presentation. And I actually asked many people's concerns per the soil boring. I believe I asked what was being done, and it was stated that there would be permeability testing. Mr. Khan explained that there was K3 and K4, and if I remember correctly, the K4 means it's the permeability factor, and the K4 means that the water runs at a slower rate, while for the K3, it's a moderate permeability. But the concern was the soil bearing and what is going to be found in the soil. The proper engineer for that is actually a geotechnical engineer. We all know, for those of us who live in this area, that Sayreville is noted for its clay. I would hope that proper mitigation would be and support of this building would be done in the event if there's a high clay content within the soil bearing results. Pertaining to parking, which again has been a concern, I'm not sure with parking, was electrical charging stations ever considered for this application?
If it's required by state law, we're going to provide it.
And I do believe it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, I meant I was thanking Lawrence, sorry.
Not rushing you.
I'm sorry.
Didn't see you fumbling with papers.
Pertaining to the overflow parking on Johnson Lane, the also concern would be the crosswalk going over Bordentown Avenue. And just to make the note that anyone who uses that area for overflow parking, when they are going to leave their cars and leave that area, there is a no left-hand turn onto Ernston Road at that point. So I hope that that is honored. Sorry. So I know that this board will please consider all testimony carefully. And if the board is to look favorably on this application, please re-emphasize all conditions being established. And on a positive note, I know not enough people deserve credit, but I'd like to give a positive shout out to the board secretary and the stenographer. Thank you all very much.
Thank you for that. Ma'am? Name and address, please.
Annette Uhas, Parkway Homes. I have two issues.
Could you pull the mic down just a little? Thank you.
I have two issues. The first one is the fumes from the underground garage. What will happen? Will it be above the houses? Will we be smelling it? How will that be taken care of?
Well, I'm not sure that you're going to see the underground garage since it's going to be underground. I know that there was testimony, I believe, at one of the prior hearings from the architect that obviously any vapors will obviously, dissipate up into the atmosphere. I don't think there'll be any pollution that's generated at ground level as a result of this underground garage.
But won't they have fans in there?
I'm sorry,
Will they have fans in there you don't want to have automobile fumes?
There's got to be some type of.
Ventilation and.
So where is that
There's a
gonna go?
ventilation system.
Ventilation is going to be in the basement.
Okay. Next thing is the sewer septic. I live in that area. I have a problem. Every month, Sayreville comes out, does the clean out. Any more sewage, it's going to be more of a problem. What's going to happen? I tried to get a list together from the sewer department, but there was not enough time. But I do know they come on a monthly basis. Otherwise, it goes in my basement and my neighbors. And I don't know if anybody else has that problem.
She's behind, right?
And this was brought up a year ago when it first
Your
came
house
out.
is behind the mosque?
I'm on 2 Parkway Place. I'm on the corner. It's
Okay.
my house and then I guess number 3
Okay.
across the street. They also have the problem. They redid the sewer years ago and they redid the road. It didn't help. So to me, that's a big concern because now you're going to have a lot more sewage coming down. What, are they going to clean it out every week? If I have sewer problems in my house, because what happens is it pushes the crap into my sewer pipe and then I have to pay to have somebody clean it out when it gets that bad. You have it too? Okay. 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 So has anything been taken into consideration for this or have they studied anything? Because this was brought up a year ago. When it first started, this is one of the issues I had.
Answer to that?
Mr. Chairman, I can read you one of the conditions set forth in our report. Indicates a sanitary sewer analysis report should be revised to include calculations that demonstrate the adequacy of the existing sanitary sewer downstream of the proposed site improvements to accept the increased sewage flows. In addition, approximately a year ago, after the questions were raised, I did speak with Mr. Leitner, who is the Director of the Water and Sewer Department. He indicated that from his standpoint, he did not see a problem with capacity in the sewer lines. The problems in the area are not caused by excessive flow. There are other problems that he felt that were the cause of the
Have they
problem.
been corrected? Will they be corrected? Because see, I don't understand why once a month they have to come and do that. And if they don't, then of course it ends up in our basements.
This applicant will be required to demonstrate that the system can handle the increased flows from his development. He's not going to be responsible for correcting existing problems that may exist in front of your property.
I understand that, but something has to be done, or why would they consider adding more sewage to a sewer system that's not working right?
Again, Mr. Leitner did not feel that the problem was a capacity problem. That's up to them to demonstrate. They'll have to submit a report to demonstrate the system can handle it. But he did not feel that the problem would be compounded by this new development.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am?
Hi, my name's Corey Penland. I live at Liberty Street. My concern is not the mosque, it's the traffic. My only concern is I just got my driveway done and I have 3 neighbors. The cement truck coming in, the dump trucks coming in, caused a problem on my street with 3 neighbors. So is that going to be a problem with the construction on the traffic of Ernston Road? Meaning cement trucks coming in, dump trucks coming in, dump trucks going out. I mean, it took 3 dump trucks for my driveway. You're building a whole entire building. So now you're gonna have it's only 2 lanes, you're gonna have 1 lane. So if they only have right now 1 driveway, how are all these trucks gonna go out?
The only thing I can indicate to the member of the public is that certainly, and I just know this is protocol, we're going to have to provide a construction schedule to the construction department. They don't generally want, X number of dump trucks arriving at the same time. Also, there are weight limitations that have to be complied with as well. So again, whatever the construction department requires, we'll comply with.
Okay, but it's not just 1 dump truck at a time. So for example, my cement was going out, the cement's coming in, another truck's coming in. You're building a whole building. So you're gonna have electrical coming in, you're gonna have you're gonna have your contractors coming in, you're gonna have everyone coming in.
They have the right to do that.
So you're talking about a 2-lane road. And you're talking about a little area. So you're gonna have to figure that out. You're not gonna work from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m.
I agree. There are certain hours of operation that construction can only occur. But again, the construction officials in every municipality in New Jersey, not just Sayreville, impose strict conditions on how construction will occur. So we'll certainly comply with that.
I was trying to get to dinner 2 Mondays ago down Ernston Road at 6 p.m. on a Monday. And the traffic was stopped from Ernston Road around the gas station. That was on a Monday, not even on a Friday. So you guys just have to think about the traffic that way. Thank you.
Ma'am? Look.
Carol Esposito, 6 Villanova Road. This question over the course of this whole process has actually never been answered. According to Sayreville Municipal Land Use Law 26.652F, a discussion of site design, project location alternatives should be had about what was, were considered shall be provided. It shall indicate why alternatives were rejected and if it would have resulted in less of a negative impact than the proposed development. We've never had an answer to what other sites were possibly considered and why they were rejected. No answer. Okay, that's just part of the Sayreville Municipal Land Use Law, that should be part of the discussion. Another question I have is, has the fire marshal for Sayreville approved the site plan yet?
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I believe the applicant provided a copy of plans to the fire official for review, but if there's favorable action taken by this board, it's a condition in our report that we would need to receive a sign off.
Okay, so if the fire marshal makes any adjustments such as access to the rear of the building or increasing the width of the turn radius or something, the site plan would then exceed the 45% of pavement allowed, because right now the proposal is 44.83% of the land. My next question is, actually it's this comment, and I know the site for Mr. D's is not part of the parking. However, it keeps being stated that there's 22 spots. There are not 22 spots. There are 19 parking spaces at Mr. D's. I've been to the property. It's 19 spaces plus 1 handicap spot. So I just wanted that for the record. My next question is, did the applicant submit written approvals from Middlesex County? Because it keeps being talked about that Middlesex County wants this, or Middlesex County doesn't care about the deceleration lane, but I have yet to see any written statements from Middlesex County in regards to this project at all.
Middlesex County, I believe, has conditionally approved the application. I believe that letter's been provided to the staff, so.
But, okay, so then what are the conditions that, if it's like conditionally approved, like what are the conditions they're approving it on?
I don't have that off the top of my head, ma'am.
Okay, so if Middlesex County is approving this project based on your approval as the Sayreville Planning Board, I hope you're looking at that closely to see what all these variances and things are.
Middlesex County approves it independently of this board.
Okay, so then I'm curious from the board what those conditions are, if that's been provided to you. My next question is, what happens if any of the stipulations that the board puts into place are not followed, such as, you know, what usage of rooms and how many people that brings in, and or hours of operation? So what happens if those conditions are not being followed?
So ma'am, there's two really types of conditions that are be placed on an application like this. The first are design and construction conditions, right? Where we talked about pre-site work evaluations of neighboring and adjacent properties, construction controls, then conditions about the actual how construction will take place and the building will be built. And that's done through the building department, right? Construction code official. Once the building is operated and the conditions that are placed on part of the memorializing resolution regarding the operation of the building, that becomes then a code enforcement issue. And so if the applicant and subsequent occupant is failing to comply with those conditions, which are legally binding and are part of the record, then it would be handled by the code enforcement office, and they would be subject to code enforcement violations.
So similar to what was happening though approximately a year ago, so that fines would be assessed and it would be up to the applicant to pay or not pay those fines, correct?
Well, I mean, depending on the severity of the violation, it could end up in court. I mean, it's a very wide range. but
Okay,
yes.
been there, done that with court, I think. Right now, the amount of parking is severely insufficient, I think, as we've all been talking about. And there's really not room for growth. So the congregation or that might be the wrong word, I'm sorry for that. You would expect there to be increased growth. So right now, if we're looking at parking and we're busting at the seams and we are 143 parking spaces short, that's not really giving room for growth over the years. The traffic studies had to have room for growth. I don't remember what the percent was, but it had to, have a certain percentage over the next couple of years that you're expecting there to be growth. You would expect that your membership would also grow as population and traffic would be increasing as well. I have here, and in the CME report from April 16th, items D5 and D6, they're discussing a detention basin, and I didn't see any of that on any of the plans. So my question is, where are these detention basins, and how would a detention basin affect the quality of life for neighbors? Mosquitoes, gross things that live in that kind of water, et cetera. And if the land in Sayreville is clay-like, like what's the, I don't know, the permeability or whatever, like how long is that water gonna be sitting there for giant mosquitoes and, like I said, gross things to be living in that? Does anyone know where these detention basins are?
Chairman, it's located underneath the parking lot.
All of them?
Underground basin, yes.
Oh, so I believe D6 talks about above ground?
There are some water quality elements to the design, and I think that's what D6 is referring to.
Like a fountain? Like what's a water quality element?
There are certain type of BMPs, which are best management practice devices, that are referenced on their plan, and we had some questions about that design.
Okay.
So all the items in section D relate to the stormwater system. They still need to provide additional information to verify it complies with the borough ordinance requirements.
Okay, so they haven't provided that information yet.
That's correct.
Okay,
They've indicated they will in the future, but it hasn't been submitted yet.
Right, but they've rested. So that's where, like, I don't understand how you can rest if you haven't provided all the information for you guys to make these decisions.
What was indicated previously was that the applicant would comply with all the conditions in that report you're referencing. So
Okay.
anything that's outstanding, they would provide if the application is approved by the board.
Okay. The next thing is I live on Villanova. So on Sunday, when St. Bernadette's lets out, Villanova backs up at least 200 yards on Villanova for about 15 minutes. And there's multiple pathways out of St. Bernadette's. You can go left on Princeton, you can go right on Princeton, you go across, you can come down Villanova. There's multiple ways out. So I'm trying to envision, if this is approved, what would that look like when there's one road out after services are over, after prayers are over, after Ramadan is over, whatever it might be. I can't envision what that would look like for this location to have one exit onto Ernston Road. When St. Bernadette's right there is backed up for a good 15 minutes, at least 200 yards, with multiple pathways out. And again, about the variances, there's a variance for 16 spots that would be part of the setback. So if you took that out of the equation, if you did not approve that, now we're even grossly more insufficient in parking. There's a variance for the deceleration lane. There was a variance for sidewalks, curbing, and the loading area. Without that variance approval, again, the amount of paved land would go over the 45% allowed by the Sayreville municipal land use laws. That's all I've got, other than I'm really concerned about this size of this project in the location of the project and the ramifications that inadequate parking will do to the entire area of Sayreville and Old Bridge. You're dealing with two towns here, and it's just really not a good situation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mohammed Naveed, 34 Corey Street. 34 Corey Street, Arlene, New Jersey.
Stand closer to the mic, please. Thank you.
Is it any better?
Yeah, much
All right.
better.
I'm not sure if there was so much back and forth when there were new warehouses that were coming up in Sayreville and new apartments that were coming up. But besides the point, I want to raise a couple of points here. And I've been a Sayreville resident for more than 15 years now. I see that there is a temple in the area. And I think it's a very integral part of Sayreville. Right? And I'm sure there was pushback when that was getting approved, whenever that was. And the proposal for Masjid Sadar is to become an integral part of Sayreville also. And why is that so, right? Because we have so many apartments. We have made Sayreville our home. We have so many apartments that are being built in Sayreville. We have gymnasiums being built over here. We have restaurants being built over here. That's the body part of ours, right? But what about our souls? Our souls need a place, and that place is the mosque. Just like there's church, just like there's the temple, we need a mosque in the area. And that's what we are proposing over here. We are being obliging to whatever is needed. There were certain things that were missed, and we are trying to oblige to that. We have been coming to the board meetings, whatever is needed. All the kids, all the ladies, all the elders, we have been here trying to follow up as to whatever is needed. Our only ask is that a mosque is a place for us to have a peaceful dialogue. It's a community center. It's not only for one community, for one religion, but it's for everybody. We ask that the board please approve this. And of course, like the Imam said earlier, we want to have a collaboration, and we want to make this not something that is painful for anybody, even the neighbors. We want it to be something that is an integral part of Sayreville going forward. Thank you.
Before you
I
speak.
can't speak again?
No, not until everybody else is done.
Okay.
You didn't listen. Sir? Yeah.
Good evening, Michael Can, 12 Vincent Street, Parlin. 12 Vincent Street, Parlin.
Lift it up.
Okay. Thank you all for your time, attention, experts, opinions. Been coming for 15 months, and I know how challenging it is for me to come here, for you to be intimately involved with it is something extra. I don't believe this site is worthy of the magnificent structure. I don't think they'll be happy there. A short-term win is going to create hardship for decades. I believe this site is too small for the structure, parking, safe access for attendees and the public driving past. The variances required to approve the application should not be granted. Insufficient parking against borough requirements. The number is contested. I still don't know what they're providing versus what is suggested and demanded by the borough. Trust it'll come out in the wash. However, indisputable is that they're requesting parking in the setback. That is a variance. I got 15 spots, might be 16 spots. By their drawing, CO3, there are 11 directly in the driveway within, the first one is within 25 feet of an active roadway where people go 35 miles an hour. Plus, we all talk about traffic. We all deal with the traffic on Ernston Road. For safety, I'll tell you that there are people far exceeding 35 miles per hour when there is not bumper to bumper traffic because it's a opportunity to drive unimpeded between Route 9 and the traffic light at Bordentown Avenue. traffic engineer. I'm not going to ask the question. It's comment period. I'm going to tell you people anecdotally, they far exceed 35 miles per hour. Parking in the setback is it. No deceleration lane. People are exceeding the speed limit of 35 miles an hour, and they're going to get to 0 miles per hour with cars in a driveway because there'll be bi-directional traffic. I still haven't seen a drawing that shows a dedicated exit. They both still show in and out. I don't think it's safe to decelerate, to pull into a driveway that tight within and outcoming traffic. I have anecdotal 40 years of experience driving into Center Street and Parkway Place. And if there's a car in the opposite direction, I have to come to nearly a complete stop because of the radius of my turn into the street. So people are not happy when they're doing 35 plus miles per hour on my tail as I have to come to a near complete stop to pull into Parkway Place. So I don't know if that's a variance or because the county's not mandating it, it's not a variance, but I will tell you it's a safety issue that's far more important because of the nature of the parking lot, the already limited parking available, the cars that will be parked very close to that active driveway where that deceleration will take place, like it or not. It will be right there on the property. I count 11 spots directly in that driveway that there is no other way out of those spots besides into the oncoming or exiting traffic from the site. So in terms of a quick turnover of a parking lot, I'm not a parking engineer. I cannot testify. However, I can anecdotally tell you that if there's a car in front of me, I cannot drive through the car. If there are multiple cars in front of me exiting parking spots, I cannot access the exits, nor can I get onto the site, which has more negative impact on Ernston Road because they will not even make the site because the driveway is full, regardless of a patrolman dictating, directing traffic in and out. Once it already happens, it will impact further upstream and downstream, and it will not make for a quick ingress or egress onto the site. I've got notes and pictures. A lot of people have gone into many of the items already. I don't want to waste anyone's time going over it, but you've got parking concerns by the numbers. We've got electric mandates for vehicles. They claim they're not going to park under the building. It's going to reduce the amount of parking available for EVs to the surface lot, which already is small, which will be reduced by 15 or 16 spots without the variance being granted. I believe that the lack of separated islands in the parking lot proposed creates pedestrian hazards into a very active parking lot with the majority of the parking spaces mandating people, pedestrians, walk through the driveway of the entrance and the exit of the lot to get to the building. There is a single walkway through the middle of the parking lot with an island to separate it decoratively, but not from the traffic coming in and out of the parking lot, coming in and out of the under-building parking lot. In my opinion, because the building is at the maximum impervious surface, there's not enough room left over to provide safe access for sidewalks, not enough impervious surface metrics available to provide rear building access to fire officials, emergency cleanup, maintenance, because it's all in the building. I haven't seen drawings that show an updated exit plan, still have double. I will not take any more of your time again. Thank you very much. Good luck. Appreciate your time.
Anybody else like to speak on this matter? Sir?
Vanessa Carney. Vanessa Carney. Excuse me. First, I'll go with the gentleman that lived across the street. I grew up in Parkway Homes. He commented on all the variances. If I wanted to do a variance on my house, I'd have to get all the neighbors to approve. Apparently, that's not a case in this situation. They just get washed away. I have to get everybody else to sign off. If they don't sign off, I don't get a change in my house. That's okay, not a big deal. The gentleman that said he deserved the mosque, you definitely do. It's just the wrong location. There's so many other locations that you can build a mosque and have your parking in Sayreville that doesn't affect a small, tight-fit community. There's no reason when there's so many other spaces. We're building everywhere, apparently. So why not build a mosque where there's space, not where it's closed up?
Thank you. Sir, you're next.
Tom Krasovich, Parlin. From what I hear from everybody, the common thread is quality of life. And what we see here is the deterioration of which. The people that have lived here for years don't want to see their communities further degraded. There was a time, and I'm old enough to remember, when you couldn't dig a hole in the suburban areas due to green spaces, global change, and the such. Now you have to dig a hole. What changed? How come we're building over and over and without regard to the quality of life? I don't understand. First you can't build, now you can build. They're building on the wetlands, they're building in our communities, in our homes. They're tearing down the homes to build a building. I don't get it. Maybe you can explain it. From what I hear people with their genuine concerns, and they are genuine. But as a response, I hear promises. We have legitimate concerns, and they are real. They're not imagined. But then we hear promises that don't worry about anything. Everything will be okay until it's too late. We have to live with the fallout, the noise, the congestion, property values decline, and likely some unforeseen issues. Like one gentleman or lady, I don't recall who, said that there might be hard feelings for decades. Well, that's a real concern too. A lot of people are not going to be happy, and those things don't go away. Look at the news. That's pretty much all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Sir?
Good evening, everyone. Syed Ali, 44 Kears Street, Parlin, New Jersey. I've been following this hearing from the time the application was filed. I've attended most of the hearing either in person or virtually. A few things that I wanted to just learn or perhaps bring up the question to just answer some of the questions were raised by our neighbors and other speakers before me. This is the application for the planning board to consider and approve or deny, but the construction will not begin when the applicant has to file an application or get a permit for anything. Is that correct or right? No.
That's correct, right?
There will be application at every stage of the process, right? For demolition, for digging, and those permits have to be approved by the construction official before anything begins.
That's correct.
So all those concerns raised here about the environment, about the ammunition or anything found under the ground will be addressed at every step of the process. So it's not like if the application is approved today, which I hope we do, it will start the construction tomorrow. There are stages that the applicant has to follow for each step of the process, including demolition, construction, foundation, framing, roofing, and so on. So, and that for that purpose, the town has its own officials, building department, construction department, who has to come inspect and, look at the permit application, approve it, and then come back and inspect and approve the building. So it's a process that we all have to go through. Just like when we built our house, just like we had a big giant, warehouse or the arsenal facility that was built on Chesapeake, I believe. So that is a huge structure. I don't know how many objections and concern were raised when the entire wooded area of many acres were actually taken away and those arsenal project was built. I've seen a lot of those here for such a small project. All I can say, and perhaps as part of the community that belongs to this community center, that this center is only going to add more beauty to the town and bring more, not just in terms of look. When we operated here for almost a year and a half, we have tried to do as best as possible with our neighbors. We were visiting them throughout all holiday seasons. We were, trying our best, and we'll continue to do that. Now, it's up to our neighbors also to do reciprocal, effort to try and build a relationship. And that's what we're gonna look forward to when we're there, God willing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sir, ma'am. The lady from Old Bridge.
Good evening to everybody here tonight, respected planning board and congregants, neighbors, friends. I've known the applicants, Fresh to Type 216 Ernston Road. Fresh to Type, thank you. I've known the applicants for many years and even taught the children of some of the applicants. I would request to take a moment for everybody in this room to reflect. Reflect for a moment and try to take a human-first approach. Respect is the foundation of our faith, and all of your views are respected and taken into consideration. Please remember, this is a community-run project. The religious activities of this entity encourage morals, ethics, and how to be better humans in society. This community has hired attorneys, engineers, consultants, and professionals who also follow and go by code. For years, this community has been following and cooperating and have been law-abiding citizens who undoubtedly will satisfy ordinances issued and construction codes required. The law of this state requires checks and balances, and the applicants will work hard to ensure that those requirements are fulfilled. Our faith encourages to be kind to your neighbor. Make sure your neighbor is fed, sheltered, and clothed. We are one community, and I ask that we come together and support each other. The applicants will fulfill their end of the deal, and like our cleric said earlier, this center will enrich the neighborhood with service, with mercy, and with harmony. To the neighbors and community members that are here with us today, I understand your concerns, and I understand the fear. It is normal when there is an unknown factor presented, but I encourage you to get to know the applicants and witness the love and mercy these folks have to give to you and your communities. And I thank you also for the efforts of attending and asking your questions. But I also ask you to have open minds and open hearts and allow this beautiful community to further enrich what you've already built. Thank you to the planning board for taking the time to listen and carefully consider this decision. We appreciate your support, and we humbly request that you allow our congregants to peacefully worship and coexist. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Glorinda Capone. I live in Laurel Park section of Sayreville. First and foremost, this has nothing to do with the people in this room not wanting a mosque being built in Sayreville. You don't get that. As a resident of Sayreville, it is about where this mosque is being built. I have been a resident of Sayreville for 36 years. My husband and I have lived in Laurel Park for 30 of those years. My backyard faces Ernston Road. As it was stated earlier, Middlesex County designated Ernston Road as one of the most dangerous county roads in this town, in the county, one of the 5 most dangerous. They had a public meeting on it. I'm not going to go over that part of it. Okay? But the bottom line is that you're being asked to approve a 40,000 plus square foot building in the middle of Ernston Road, in the middle of residential homes. If approved, this is going to create additional safety issues, not just for the members of the local residents, but for members of the mosques. Ernston Road is a death trap. It is hard to get around Ernston Road morning, noon, night, weekends, and let's not even talk about when school's letting out. Additional traffic, cars, pedestrians crossing roads will be impacting the quality of life of local residents. I know it's been mentioned by this board numerous times that traffic isn't a reason for an approval to be denied, but is quality of life of the Sayreville residents, is the impact that it will have on the value of our homes, the extra time it will take to get children to school, to sports, to work, to medical appointments. Not to mention, God forbid there's a medical emergency in my development. You can't get into my development. An accident, a fire, and of lately, as the gentleman mentioned earlier, Ernston Road has been the hub of emergency vehicles going up and down the road morning, noon, and night. At the last meeting, it was stated that activities won't be going on during prayer times. We all know there will be an overlap. It's a given at any house of worship, which will impact traffic in and out of the mosque. I asked the planning board to please consider how this is going to impact the quality of life. That is it, the quality of life of the local residents. There are apartment buildings, everything being built all over this town. There is a better location for this mosque, and we welcome you to Sayreville, not on Ernston Road in the middle of our homes.
Next. Thank you. That's okay.
Good evening, Samaya Sadar, Jackson Ave, Parlin. Can you hear me well? I just had 2 comments on number 1, location, and number two, quality of life, since it's a major concern. Location-wise, personally, I've been living in this town for 20 plus years, so I am a resident of Sayreville. We are all neighbors, and I would say that Ernsten Road, the mosque being on Ernsten Road is imperative. Last Ramadan, unfortunately, we couldn't practice at this location, but we were at Samsel, and I'll tell you that it was a huge blessing to be able to finish teaching, go back home, break your fast, eat dinner, and make it to prayers on time because of the location. Now think of that, Masjid Sadar, 2 minutes from Samsel. It's the same thing. A mosque is meant to be in your daily life, not something far away. It's supposed to be at the center of your life, the center of your community. The neighbors of Sayreville are of all denominations. So when we say the neighbors need a mosque, the neighbors do need a mosque. We need a center to put our hearts to, our spirituality. It's the same thing as school, as medical emergencies, as anything else critical in life. Our souls matter. Without it, we are nothing. Our communities matter. And the next thing is the quality of life. The quality of life since the mosque has been in Sayreville, for me, has personally improved greatly. To be given a purpose, to be given the opportunity to teach, to volunteer, to give back to the community has not only helped my life, but helped me realize that we are not meant to live alone in this world. I have met people that have lived in Sayreville alongside me that I didn't know for years. And it's just through the mosque that was possible. I also want to make note about other locations. If anybody is given free land, please give it to the masjid. That would be nice. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So if we can make do with our location and we could follow all the rules and everything, we can improve this community. We need a mosque in Sayreville. We need it on Ernsten Road. We need it at 212 to 216 Ernsten Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Yo. You're out of order. You speak through the chair and it's not your turn.
Good evening. My name is Debbie Lynch. I live on Pulaski Avenue here in Sayreville. And once again, I'd like to reiterate what other people have already mentioned. We are not opposed of the mosque here in Sayreville. We're opposed of the location. At all these meetings, we've all talked about the traffic, and I know traffic is not the determining factor, but we talk about the traffic and the congestion in front of where the mosque is planned to be built. Nobody has considered what happens on the other side of Bordentown Avenue. And I don't live directly in that area, but for any people who were at the meetings for the bus depot here in Sayreville, the people from Laurel Park all came out and protested because they can't make a left-hand turn on Ernsten Road. The people, including our mayor, commented that he can't make a right-hand turn on Ernsten Road. Now, all that traffic is going to bottleneck in front of the proposed building. Where is that going? Further down Ernsten Road. We only have, what, 3 major roads in Sayreville? Main Street, Washington, and Ernsten? Washington Road is going to be a deadlock. I live on the other end of town. We're not going to be able to move. 3:30 last week, I think it was last Monday or Tuesday, the Main Street extension was backed up all the way to the fire building. Sayreville has not stopped building in the last 2 years. We have more apartments going up. Riverton's going up, which is proposed how many thousands of apartments? How are people getting to Riverton that live south of Route 9, in Marlborough, in Freehold? To get there, they have to come down Ernsten Road. We're doing nothing in Sayreville but bottlenecking our roads. We have a Wawa now going up. We have more apartments going up on Main Street. We have condos going up behind Casa Verde and thousands of apartments and condos going up in Riverton. We are not going to be able to move in this town. And that is what we are asking. A different location would be great, and we welcome you. And there's nothing wrong with traveling 2 minutes to get to where your soul is going to rest. I've been a resident in this town between my husband and I and my parents before me for over 100 years. And I travel now 15 minutes to South Amboy to go to my church. And there's nothing wrong with that. And we are a good community here in Sayreville. But we need to respect one another and our quality of life. My quality of life has changed drastically in the last 2 years because of all the building that they're doing in this town. They're turning our town into a little Manhattan. This isn't the town I grew up in 70 some years ago. And the thing that really scares me even more is the gentleman that spoke about the East Brunswick Mosque. And now they're building more, and they're building a cemetery. How many more houses, how many more plots of land are they going to acquire on Ernston Road? And are we going to be here next year and the following year, because we've been here for 2 years already, trying to approve more buildings going up or for more parishioners to come? Or are we going to be here for a burial ground the next time? Our roads can't take this. We need to find a different location. And you would have the support of everyone here in Sayreville. That's it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Which, sir in the back with the brown hat?
Mike Weaver, 10 Parkway Place, Berlin.
Good evening.
Most of the stuff that has been brought up already that I was going to go over, but there is one request, is that before they start building, I know they have to do a rodent rebatement, I believe it's called, where they have to set out traps when they're going to knock down the buildings and stuff like that. But because this all started in 2019 and when they started cutting down the trees, a lot of the trees are still sitting there. Some building debris has been dumped on the property since then from a landscaper or something like that, plus firewood. 3 trailer loads of firewood have been dumped on the property since then. It's breeding ground for rodents, breeding ground for bugs. So what I'd like is, if this does get approved, is that you guys do, instead of just setting the traps a week before the building gets knocked down, do a 6-month or a 1-year rebatement before that. This way it can take care of all the rodents that are already living there now inside of these trees, the dead trees laying on the ground. Because I get them all the time in my backyard. I have mice living in my shed, in my lawnmower and stuff like that, because they're all breeding over there. So I would just request that the board does something about that. Has them make it so that they have to do a 6-month or something like that. And that's it.
Thank you. Anybody else that hasn't spoke like to speak? Anybody else that hasn't spoke like to speak? Hang on.
I have a question. If everything gets approved by EPA, everything gets approved, who has the final word? Is it you guys, you 9, that vote on it? If everything else is approved from the county?
There is no final approval. It's an application such as this requires approval from various entities, and they have to get it. The applicant must get it from everyone, the county, the state, municipality. And so it's generally, and the applicant has the right, any applicant has the right to seek these approvals in the order that they choose, right? I deal with a lot of clients who may be down in southern Jersey in the Pinelands, and you have to get Pinelands approval to build there. And that can be quite an ordeal. So oftentimes an applicant will say, listen, I want to know if I'm going to get Pinelands approval before I come before a board, but they're not required to. any application such as this, which has other approvals, what we call outside agency approvals, if it's approved, it says subject to receipt of all outside agency approvals. And when outside agencies give those approvals, like if they give it ahead of a municipal land use board doing it, they also say, this is conditional on you actually getting approval from everybody else who has to do it. So the state of New Jersey doesn't prescribe the specific order of operation as to how you have to go about it as an applicant.
Okay, but if all of those entities do approve, do you guys have any say after that?
Well, this board has its say when it's supposed to. It doesn't matter when those approvals come in. This board's review of this application is limited to the scope of this board's authority, right? And so whether or not, if an applicant doesn't get outside agency approval, and let's say they get board approval, well, then they're stuck because they can't build. If they don't get board approval, but they have outside agency approval, well, they're stuck. They can't build.
So who approves first?
There is no,
Outside or you guys?
there's no prescribed rule for that. The applicant has the right to obtain those approvals in any order they want to. And every applicant does it differently based on the project. Sometimes you wait and if there's significant county issues, an applicant will go to the county first because they want to know that they're going to get that. Other times they just go to the municipality first, and then after getting municipal approval, they'll seek to get outside agency approval.
And have they gotten approvals yet?
The applicant testified earlier, or I should say the applicant's attorney made a representation on the record as to the county approval. Now, there's a number of approvals they need, and they were all set forth in the application that they received county approval.
Right, I know the county, but what else did they get approved for? Who else approved you guys? Do you have a list of that?
Well, I can tell you that there are certain outside agencies in Middlesex County that will require our approval. We will not seek those approvals until we know what's happening with the local land use board. For instance, there's something called the Freehold Soil Conservation District. I'm not going to apply for that if I don't get an approval here. If we get an approval from this board, then we'll apply for freehold soil.
So you guys do the approval first? That's my question. Who starts the ball rolling?
Well, let me give a generality on it. Yes, most applicants will go in front of the municipality to seek either a zoning board or planning board approval before they spend money on other outside agency approvals.
Right.
That's the norm.
That's what I thought. So my question is, you guys have to approve it first before they go on?
No, this board does not. The applicant can choose, but the applicant could go to seek all the approvals at the same
Well,
time.
he don't want to. He wants to get approval from you guys
That's his
first.
choice.
Okay, so is that it? That's what you're gonna do? Before he gets approvals from anybody else, you guys are the ones that are gonna vote first, right?
One way or the other.
One way or the other. Now, does it have to be all 9 of yous agree, or could it be 5-4?
5-4 is a winner either way.
5-4 is either, so that's it, 5. So if 5 of you
way.
say yes, then that's it. That's the approval.
Either way.
Either way, we'll say no.
That's
That's
correct.
the approval. 5-4. Okay. All right. So you guys asked my address. What's your addresses? Do you all live here?
Well, to serve on a
You have to
municipal
live in
land use
the-
board, you have to
live
reside
in
within the
this
municipality.
town. You have to live in the town, right?
Yes.
These all live in the town. Do you all live near Ernston Road by chance? Any of yous live by Ernston Road? Anybody?
I live right off of Washington Road. Sometimes it takes me 3 lights to get out of
Oh, I
my
know,
street.
I know. So, me too. Well, now it's going to take you 12 lights if you say yes.
Unfortunately, we can't deny it on traffic.
Well, there's so many other things that you can deny it for. There's so many other things. Like, I don't understand 42,000 square feet. They can't make it smaller, a small mosque? How many people, how many towns are going to come here for this mosque? We know when the Indians have their holidays, they come from Edison, they come from all over. And we have to have, the cops, the traffic, what's going to happen with them? They're going to come from other towns on Ramadan. They're going to come from all over. I mean, it's not just going to be, how What's the capacity of the building? How many people does it hold?
The applicant has provided thorough testimony as to this. There was an opportunity to question both the applicant's representative, their engineer, their architect, and their planner on these items. And it has been done numerous times over the past
Yeah, well, I wasn't here, so could you
16
tell
months.
me how many people the building holds?
Well, if you had been at the last meeting, ma'am.
I wasn't.
All right, well, at the last meeting, there was a representation made and a condition made that there are strict occupancy limitations.
And what's the occupancy?
I'm not gonna, ma'am, I don't, we rehashed this at the last meeting. Believe the house of worship ritual rooms have an occupancy of 321. It was reduced from 454.
So at any given time, there can only be 300 people in that building?
That's correct. And again, if you had been at some of the prior hearings, you also would have
Well,
known.
anytime I wanted to come, they were called off.
Well, I won't answer. If you want to interrupt me, that's
But that's what I
fine.
wanted to know. How many people in a 42,000 square, that's it? 300 people can only worship at one time?
Chairman, am I compelled to answer these
No.
questions?
No.
Okay. I mean,
Okay,
the
fine.
testimony was,
This testimony's all been rehashed. Just because you weren't here, we're not gonna.
Can I read it somewhere? Is it somewhere I can read up?
You
Yeah.
can go to the Borough Hall and get all the transcripts.
And then that's what I'll do. But everybody here lives by Ernston Road. Huh? Anybody? You do. You're the only one? I'm hoping I can count on your vote.
Well, and I would just counsel members of the board that it's inappropriate to ever base your vote on a personal interest or on how an application would affect your own personal property or your
listen,
life.
everybody needs to be realistic too. Everybody has to be realistic. You know that there's plenty, and don't get insulted because I'm not picking anybody out, but there's plenty of corruption when it comes to things like this.
Ma'am, your comment, Chairman.
That's the second time. I think you should sit down.
Well, because it's true.
That's unfair. I'm not gonna sit up.
Did I
Ma'am, I'm
point
not
you
gonna
out?
sit up here as a chairman of a board and have you
Didn't point you
degrade
out.
my board.
Didn't point
That's
you
not
out.
fair to anybody. I
Well,
wouldn't let them do it. I'm not gonna let you do it.
Well, because if it wasn't, you guys would know
That's not true.
right away
You
that
should
this should not
apologize to
happen.
this board.
I'm not going
Then
to
sit
apologize.
down.
Not apologizing.
Sit down. Thank
And I
you.
wasn't picking out you.
I don't
wasn't
care who
picking out
you're picking
anybody.
out.
What I
Just
said-
saying it is wrong.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
It's true.
This is a
The
biased
truth
board.
hurts.
The truth hurts.
Carol Esposito, 6 Villanova Road. One thing I just thought of while I was sitting there is originally the applicant stated that Ramadan facility services were not going to be happening on site. Recently, that has changed, that they will be hosting the month-long of Ramadan on site. So again, with a celebration of that extent and for that long period of time, yet again, the parking situation will be extremely insufficient, especially for some large celebration that lasts an entire month long. I know Eid was still going to be held off-site at the park, Kennedy Park. However, Ramadan is now going to be celebrated at Ernston Road. And again, parking, huge issue for that celebration. The other thing I would just wanted to ask the board, can you just explain the process? After we finish tonight, what happens and timelines?
Go ahead.
So, ma'am, what's gonna happen, and Chairman, you okay if I disclose
Go
it?
ahead. We've discussed this and I'm gonna have the attorney explain what we're gonna do.
Okay, thank you.
So the last portion of a land use application is the opportunity for public comment, questions, and put evidence in the record, and that's what we're doing right now. Generally then, the application is closed. The applicant's actually given an opportunity to do a closing statement or a summation, and then the application is closed and it goes to the board. Generally then, the board would hear a motion. However, In this particular case, upon the advice of counsel, as well as the other professionals, we're recommending that the board not take action tonight for the reason that I've spent time since the last meeting. I know the other professionals have, going through the record, identifying the various conditions that have been agreed to. Some of those conditions are then subsequently modified because there have been subsequent changes to the plan. As you know, there have been changes to both the parking structure. There have been changes to both occupancy. There's been changes to use, a lot of changes that as this is developed. And in doing that, we sort of determined that in order to ensure that all of the conditions are crystal clear, set forth in writing, and that all the members of the board are fully aware of the conditions that have been agreed to, and maybe some that have not been agreed to, that it would not be prudent to rush to a vote tonight until we had an opportunity to go through the complete record and identify each and every condition and be able to articulate to members of the board and the public how those conditions would affect the development as well as the operation of this site. So what is going to happen when public comment closes tonight is that Mr. Sachs will be given the opportunity to provide his summation. The application will then close. The meeting, since there's nothing else, unless there's old business or any other matters on the agenda, the meeting will close. And at a subsequent meeting, the board, without hearing any additional testimony, comment, or evidence, will have a vote that will be on the full application as to the most current version of the application that's been introduced by the applicant, and with all of the conditions and variances, as well as all the conditions that have been requested by the public, by the board, have been agreed to by the applicant. And there may be conditions that board members want to put on, the applicant may not have agreed to. But that's the process that's going to occur.
Is there a timeline that you have to do this within? Like, is there a set number of days that you have to come back?
Is already booked. Our first meeting open is June 4th. So that's when we intend to have that. Not only when we gather all this information that we have, so that we can make a correct vote, we're going to have it delivered to Mr. Sachs. So if he has any questions on what we're looking at to make our decision, he can have some input, but that's it.
Okay, so I encourage the board, because this has changed significantly. I'm not really sure on any given meeting when I come here what I'm actually looking at for the building structure. So I really encourage you all to really take that time and go through everything, because it seems like every time we've been here, there was always a change.
And that's why we want to do this.
Excellent,
I just asked the attorney if we could, when we have the agenda put up, that we can put up everything that's being asked and agreed upon, okay,
Great.
to everybody. So we're not trying to do this in the dark. We're trying to keep it as transparent as possible. We want to make the best choice that we can for the town and for the people that live in town and worship in town.
Great.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, go ahead.
Nazimul Sahib, Director and Imam of Masjid Sadarn Community Center. First of all, I would like to say that before now, I have never appreciated the type of job members of the council normally do. I mean, sitting here and coming here for the past months, I have a deeper appreciation for the job that you guys do. Your commitment and your perseverance and patience to listen to us. It's not easy. And volunteering, I mean, I'm not sure if I can able to fit into that situation to do what you're doing. So I would like to take this opportunity to commend you guys for doing an amazing job sitting there, listening to what we have to say. Secondly, as the Imam, someone who leads the community, I think we need to learn to appreciate each other's religion and try to learn a little more about them. It's very difficult for me to look at a person who is a Jewish person or a Christian brethren or from the Hindu faith or the Sikh faith and judge that practices based on my personal practices. I cannot do that. And so it is very important for us to be more open, learn about the different culture, to appreciate what and how people worship. This was the teachings of all the prophets, including Abraham and Moses and Jesus, including Muhammad, and peace be upon all of them. They were brothers, and they taught us how we should be able to appreciate each other's culture, each other's religion, that we can coexist within a community. So what I've been hearing is like, we want this mosque, but we don't want it here. That somehow is based on how I perceive my worship to be. You see, in Islam, we worship 5 times a day, and you need accessibility to a house of worship. That's how we worship. And so it is very important for others, my Christian brothers, my Hindu brothers, and Jewish brothers and friends to understand and appreciate my modus operandi of how I worship my Creator, each one of us. And so I cannot judge you based on how I worship. You have to be able to look into deeper understanding of my worship and able to appreciate, and then we can able to understand why we need a house of worship that is very accessible for the community, that they can go to worship. And you could imagine, we were sitting here, we finished one prayer, right? Within 5 minutes. Most of you probably did not know. You see a few people went out, they pray, and they came back within 5 minutes. That's how it is. And so when we appreciate how we worship and the culture of each other, I think we will be able to coexist and appreciate the understanding and try to live together in a very peaceful way. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak on this matter? Anybody else like to speak on this matter? Seeing none? Seeing none, I'll take a roll call vote to close, and then have you.
You know, Mr. Chairman, in terms, I think I'd rather sum up at the next meeting, because I'd like to review all the conditions and perhaps reference them in my summation. And I promise you I'll be brief in that summation. So
We can't put a timeline on it, but you know, we're fitting it in that day, so
okay,
it's gonna need to be brief.
I will be brief. Okay.
Can we get a motion to close?
I need a motion to close.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Old business, new business, administrative matters.
Our next meeting is May 21st, and we will be located back at Borough Hall.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm assuming there'll be,
You're gonna need to carry?
well, I think you're going to carry it till June 4th, but that would be without further notice.
That's correct.
Okay.
Does everybody understand that?
We need a motion for that?
So we shouldn't carry that.
What are we doing?
Well, carry without further notice to here.
Everybody understand that we're gonna carry this to June 4th, and it's not gonna be here. It's gonna be at Borough Hall.
Other way around. No, I think we want to do it here.
We wanna do it here? Then we can't do it there.
No, we can't. Then we do it
No.
at Borough Hall.
Borough Hall.
Yeah. It's gonna be June 4th at Borough Hall, 7:30. And you'll carry over.
Close to the public.
Close to the public, all in favor? Aye.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just for your request, yes, I will consent to this being carried till June 4th at Borough Hall at 7:30 PM without any further notice, at which time the only matters that will occur will be my brief summation and obviously a request for a vote.
Okay, thank you very much. Before you leave, I'd like to thank the public for everything that they did. I'd like to thank the court stenographer and the board secretary, all the professionals on both sides, and especially my board. Thank you very much.
Can I get a motion to adjourn? Second? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. I know I ask you this every time.